Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. What you can do for your country. Your country. Your country.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to The Big Picture. This is the place where fearless minds will prevail. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3, and I think the episode that we do this evening you're going to find very, very interesting. It's going to be a very deep episode, and so we'll get into that in just a second. But before we start, I want to make an announcement. For those that don't know, the roundtable with me and John is coming back at the end of the month, probably maybe that first week in April. We'll see how quick the turnaround is. But we have a new member to the group, to the roundtable, and that is my good friend, Miss Laurel, my co-host here on The Big Picture. So welcome, Laurel, and we appreciate you coming on board to the roundtable.
I appreciate you asking me. It'll be fun.
Well, the reason why I chose Laurel to join us on the roundtable is because Laurel does a lot of research. She digs, she finds stuff, and she's very thorough with what she does. So we figured the skill set that she has would be an asset to the roundtable because she's been an asset to the big picture. And so the reason what we're doing here is we're morphing the two fronts of war that we've been on. You know, for those that know us, they know that we're XJWs. They know, and just like with John, they know that we speak out against Watchtower. And eventually, once I got to a point to where I was like, wait a second, Watchtower is very similar to what the government is doing as well. So I started making the connection that Watchtower is just part of this deep state Illuminati cabal, whatever you want to call them. And so that's why we created The Big Picture in the first place. If you're new to this and this is the first episode you've ever watched, we've done at least 16 episodes in the first season to where we wanted to show you the big picture. And like I've said before, when you're putting a puzzle together, you have to put the frame together first. And then you can slowly start filling in each section. Now, our first couple of episodes, we were building the frame. Then later on, we started picking out the corners that, you know, all the colors were together and it looked really easy. And we put all those together and we got that taken care of. But tonight's episode is going to be a little bit different. If you've ever worked on a puzzle and you have a part where there's the sky, all the pieces are blue. And you're just like, how in the world are we going to get this to fit? How are we going to get this to make sense? Guys, I'm telling you, tonight's episode, that's what this is going to be. Because it's going to be hard for some of you to make those connections. You just have to work with it. You got to turn the piece to be able to get it in the spot. But Laurel's done the work on this. Now, she's going to be taking the lead on this tonight, and I'm going to be here as for support. But the reason why I'm doing this is we want to go deeper. It's time for you guys to come down the rabbit hole with us and check out what we've done. Now, Laurel has started that process. She created her own Facebook channel. Laurel, what's the name of your Facebook or your YouTube channel? I'm sorry.
XJW Whistleblower Preacher's Daughter.
Okay. And you've done 2 episodes, right?
3.
3. Can you just give the audience a brief synopsis of what you've already talked about in those episodes?
Sure. Yeah, my first one, I just kind of introduced myself and gave a very short summary of my life story. I could have gone on for hours, but it was just to know, let people know where I come from.
Okay.
And then the other two are leading up to what we're doing tonight, because I don't think a lot of people understood why I was so into exposing the Zionists. And I did 2 episodes on the Zionists.
Okay.
Because that goes with Zion's Watchtower. We know that even if they say they're not now, a Watchtower is still Zionists. I mean, they still are. I could go down the list of all the things that they do that the Zionists do.
Okay.
So that's why I did 2. I think they were about 40 minutes each, just trying to show that we're not anti-Semitic at all. We believe, we believe in the Hebrew Jews. We believe in the Jews that follow the Torah, because it's very similar to the Bible and it teaches love, et cetera, et cetera. But then there are the Zionist Jews that are the Anunnaki Jews that are not real Jews, they're fake Jews, and they follow the Talmud. And the Talmud is it basically is the same as being in Freemasonry. It's all tied together. So that's the part that people have to understand, that the Freemasonry and the Zionists go together, and they're not nice people. And if anybody reads anything about the Talmud, I mean, even to get initiated into the Freemasonry, Knights of Malta, any of those secret societies, they have to swear an oath that if they speak about anybody in the group, their tongue is going to be cut out. They speak about nobody in the world surviving they talk about an Armageddon too, just like Jehovah's Witnesses do, and that nobody will survive, and that they will be the ones to cut the babies out of pregnant women's bellies. And it's just nothing but hate. And that is the part that I'm trying to get across to people, that, when I first started telling people, when the war in Israel started, I had so many people here say, oh no, Israel is Israel. That's Israelites. They've always been there. And I say, no, they're totally different type of Jew.
Yep.
And that is what brought me to do those 2 videos, because people didn't believe me in that. So I hope that I explained it enough in those 2 videos. And if you didn't watch them, go back and watch them. And probably good to watch them before you watch this, because now that I did what the Zionists teach, I'm not me, but you and I both are going to show that Jehovah's Witnesses have basically the same teachings.
Now, you had comments on those videos. What was kind of the theme of some of the comments that you received on those episodes?
I had actually really good comments. I didn't, my first video, the one that I just, gave my life story, I got a lot of views and really good comments on that. But like I say, the 2 on Zionism, because I'm still trying, like us tonight, trying to figure out how this social media thing works. I didn't put a proper caption on them. I didn't do it the way I should have done it. But I mean, there is still good information, but It's not the kind of thing that is going to catch people's attention, but it is something that if you want to listen to it, I mean, I don't monetize anything. I don't even care about that. I just want to wake people up. That's all. I want to let them know. I want to let them know. I've been down the rabbit hole now for 8-9 years, since 2015. How long is that? That's when I started going down the rabbit hole, is 2015.
Right.
And
I started in 2020.
yeah, and the more you go, the more there is. You just don't realize, unless you go down it, you don't realize what's down there and what we have missed out on and how wonderful life can be. I mean, honest, I just love my life right now.
Yep.
And that's why I do this. That's why I do it. Hell, I mean, all day today, I've been working on getting this video together. I live in Mexico. I could have been at the beach, but no, and I'm not saying this to brag or anything like that or get pat on the back, but I love people and I want people to, and people, a lot of people don't have the time that I have to dig.
Right.
And so I'm digging for other people.
And then we've always put that out, whether we were on the roundtable, big picture episodes, or whatever any of us have done. The only reason we're doing this is because we're trying to help folks. That's it. All these videos I've ever done, I've not made one dime off of it. I mean, literally, I could just like not do this stuff and just be watching a movie right now or something. But I'm like you, Laurel, and I'm like John, and others that do this activism. We're here to help people because, I think for me, I thought about this the other day. And it's like being in the Watchtower for so long and going door to door, we thought we were helping people. We thought we were doing something good. And then when you realize, oh, crap, that was all bull crap. It's like, oh, so you mean all that effort and time I spent in trying to help people was wasted? I enjoy helping folks. So I think we're trying to make up for some of that time that was kind of stolen from us from helping people for real. And so that's kind of what we're doing now is we know we are truly helping people wake up from the Watchtower, wake up from the political side of things. And for those XJWs, or even if you're a PMO, some of the stuff we're going to mention tonight, you're just going to blow it off. I know you are, and that's fine because everybody's at a different level of waking up. But you tell me, how many lies have you heard me tell you? Let me know. Let me know how many lies you've heard me say. Let me know how many lies you've heard Laurel or John say. We're not here to lie to you folks. We're not here to make up things. We're not here.
And if we do by mistake get some wrong information and put it out there, we'll be the first ones to admit that we've made a mistake and prove us wrong. Yeah. I ask anybody, prove me wrong. I mean, I'm not above that.
Yeah. So, all right. So with that in play, I guess we'll go ahead now with the information that Laurel's going to bring out tonight. Take notes, go do your own research on what she brings out. And like I said, if you find something different than what she presents or I add to it, please let us know in the comments. Get back to, because all we're trying to do is get the right information. That is it. So, Laurel, I'll turn the floor over to you. Where you want to go with all this tonight?
Okay, this is where I'd like to start, because I'm not saying that Jehovah's Witnesses are the only bad religion out there. I don't believe in any religion. I believe that spirituality and religion are two different things, and I believe that I'm a totally spiritual person, but I have no belief in any religion at all, because and so we'll just go through this. This is This will go along with what I'm going to be bringing up on an executive order about crimes against humanity. And so if we just go through this kind of will give us a little bit of an insight as to where we're going tonight. So crimes against humanity, the ultimate betrayal at its most chilling, 18 U.S. code, it should be, they don't have the right number on there, encompasses crimes against humanity and systematic and widespread atrocities committed against civilian populations. From genocide to torture, this provision holds accountable those who perpetrate unspeakable acts of violence and oppression. As the list of indictments grows, the world watches in horror as justice closes in on the perpetrators of these heinous crimes, ensuring that they are brought to account for their atrocities. The description doesn't stop with the Protestants. Catholic supporters have been kept in the dark about his abortion views. The deception goes way beyond Protestant Catholic beliefs, as a program multiple who participates in satanic rituals. Billy Graham has deceived everyone. People often ask, how does no one know about this in the general public? How are they able to maintain the secrecy of membership for high-profile figures like Billy Graham into Freemasonry? Well, let's look at a quote from an unknown author. Because Billy Graham is such a key person for the Illuminati and the satanic plan to bring in the Antichrist and the one world religion, key parts of Graham's life have been intentionally shrouded. When he joined the Masonic Lodge in 1948, they intentionally kept his membership more secret than others. Why? They are secret. They're a secret society. Mm-hmm. They're secret about their membership in general, but even more so if the person is a key Illuminati and a big key in their religious control. This is why they have kept the membership of, and first of all, before I go on with this, I'm going to say this is not from a Jehovah's Witness source. This is from another source, and this is what they have to say. This is why they have kept membership of Charles T. Russell, founder of the Watchtower Society, quiet. This is why they keep the membership of the Mormon prophets secret. It has been a consistent pattern by the Masonic Lodge to keep these key people's membership very quiet. It would be much easier if we had a membership certificate. But for people who don't want to believe, no amount of evidence would suffice. In terms of a paper trail, we have the following, end quote. People who worship these pastors, I want to ask yourself this question. What is a devout Christian pastor? Franklin Graham eating at a place called Voodoo Donuts that are decorated with encircled pentagrams and which featured Jesus Christ crucified on a penis and testicle-shaped donut called cock and balls. Do you see how they are being mocked by the very people who are allegedly supposed to be leading you to God? Because if you did want to make God a part of your life by seeking your faith through Franklin Graham, he did offer you a faster way to connect with him by suggesting that you take the vaccine, because then that was what Jesus would do. Why are you trying to hang on to what never was? Well, who else pushed the vaccine? It wasn't just Billy Graham, was it? Mm-hmm. We know JWs did too. Mm-hmm. What do I mean? Did you know the great cathedrals are located on ancient pagan ritual sites? Notre Dame in Paris was built on a site of worship to the goddess Artemis, Diana, El, as in the El in Israel. I'm adding that myself. Churches were built by Knights Templars, occult worshiping dedicated to the serpent gods. To them, Christianity is the worship of the serpent gods, especially El and Baldur, and other Illuminati symbols and deities. Between 1170 and 1270, some 80 cathedrals and 500 churches were built in France alone and dedicated to Our Lady El. I guess we can now appreciate why Illuminati placemen like George Bush, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, the British royal family, and others profess to be such strong Christians while taking part in satanic rituals. They know what it really means for their occult practices. So it says, your churches were founded by Freemasons people. You were born into a lie since day one. When are you going to wake up and realize that your connection to God is a personal venture that has nothing to do with middlemen who have nothing to do with these middlemen who own these mega churches?
I've totally felt that way.
Yeah.
Now, where did you get this information from? What's the source on that one?
Oh God, I've had this for a while now. I pulled it up. I'll look it up and I'll put a link underneath.
That's fine. Now I want to go back to go down to where the middle where it talked about the donuts.
Yeah.
The name of that place.
Yeah.
There it is. Feature Jesus Christ. Where's the name of the donut place?
Oh yeah. They have, which featured Jesus Christ.
Voodoo Donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So folks, that place is real. It does exist. You can go and you can look it up, Voodoo Donuts. That's I mean, just the description right there about that particular donut that he was eating, that's crazy. But yes, go look that up and look at the symbology that they have plastered all over their decor and everything. I told you, tonight we're going deep.
And never stop asking questions. I mean, question all of it. Like, don't think because this is some kind of famous pastor that has millions of followers that he is loved by God. He's going along. They all are. They're all going along to get, they want followers because they want money. It's all about money. And the more money they have, the more followers, the more followers they have, the more money they get.
I was just sitting here thinking, Laurel, I remember being back in the Kingdom Hall, and when we were studying the Revelation book, a lot of you folks do remember what the Revelation book had in it. And they basically told people that the false religion or Christendom was working with the governments.
Mm-hmm.
Watchtower was telling you the truth right there. They were hiding everything in plain. They were part of it.
Yeah, they were all part of it, but they didn't want us to know it. They wanted to hide it from us.
So to think that we that go down these rabbit holes are making this stuff up, XJWs, look back. What did Watchtower say? Christendom was going right along with the governments. And so here we see that. This is what's taking place. All right.
Yeah, and like one of that first video you did on I don't even know if you had the round table yet, but when I first met you, when you were doing that video with John, and you were talking about Jehovah's Witnesses being part of the United Nations.
Yes.
that circuit overseer had absolutely no, he didn't even care. He didn't even care that anybody knew that. And yet in their publications, the United Nations was the snake that eats mankind,
Yep.
basically.
Yep. Yep. So we're not off base, folks, when we talk about this stuff. So I can see Watchtower. There's been a lot of debate whether Charles Taz Russell was a member of Freemasonry or not, but I'm sorry. He called it Zion's Watchtower. There was a cross and a crown on the material. I mean, there's just too many things that connect him to Freemasonry that, it's hard to just say he wasn't. You really can't say that. But
Well, if you want to go into that, I've I could show you this here that I have. I've done a deep dive on bloodline families.
okay.
And Russell, and the one thing about bloodline families is they hide children. They will say that they've died in childbirth or something's happened to them, and they send them away somewhere else because their bloodline is very, very important to them.
Oh yeah.
And that's why they're so interbred. They do their bloodline.
I tell you what, instead of going down that whole line right there, I'll tell the folks, I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, the Kathy O'Brien story. Have you seen her story yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So folks that are watching the episode tonight, go back and look on my channel. There's a video that I just did last night. It's called Trance, something that everybody needs to see. Go watch that video because it ties into what Laurel's saying right now about these bloodlines and the way they operated. They were generationally incestuous people. They kept everything in the family. Cousins marrying cousins, nieces marrying uncles. I mean, it's documented. There's proof for it all. But go watch that video because it's kind of mind-blowing. So,
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Laurel.
Yeah, they've actually put a lot of their bloodline families into mental institutions because of the fact that they're born almost vegetables because of the interbreeding.
Yeah.
So we have that, but I'm not, without showing any of that. And this is what I'm going to get into next is, Charles Taze Russell. Yeah, you can say, well, there's not enough proof, but for me, there's enough proof. I've gone into it, and the Russell family was related to Huntington. Huntington was the founder of Skull and Bones, and they change their names all the time. And I personally, I don't know. Everybody, everybody can put their own spin on it, or they can do their own research. We always encourage people to do their own research. But from the research that I've done, Huntington's last son was a stillborn. And and the name of that son was Charles Taze Russell's father. So all they've done is they've changed the dates a little bit, and they've said he was a stillborn, but I go back into it. So I'm convinced that the Russell bloodline is Rothschild.
Okay.
So so from there, that's where we're going to go.
Okay.
And people do your own research. I showed you my stack there and what I've looked at. And I'll tell you another bloodline family that is some of them are good. Like as far as I know, I mean, I think the Kennedy bloodline, they were another, although their real name wasn't Kennedy. See, they changed their names. But as far as from my research, they had at least 4 children, possibly 5. And they sent, like, they did the same thing, that Patrick was apparently born, they said he was born, stillborn, or died right after his birth, but he's still alive. So, and then they also had an older, they send their children away to protect the bloodline.
Right, right.
So it happens a lot in these families. Okay, this is what I was going to show here. That is the fake Jews. That's Zionists. And there was about 5 other pictures, but I just put that one up. And you see all those guys sitting there, and they're just having a hissy fit because they are being asked to go and fight. I guess there's not, over in Israel right now, they don't have enough fighting men. And they're asking these guys to go and fight and go to war. And they're exactly the same as Jehovah's Witnesses. They do not go to war. It's against their religion. And I never knew that before. That was new to me. I did not know that was against their religion. So that's another way. In the other 2 videos I did, that I was trying to point out the things between Jehovah's Witnesses or Watchtower and Zionists, how they are very similar. And we know that Jehovah's Witnesses won't go to war, and neither will Zionists. And so that's actually, there was a better picture than this, but it didn't come up, so I just left this one.
Laurel, can we clear up for the audience, when we say Zionist, that's also referring to the Khazarians, right?
Yeah, Khazarians, Anunnaki Jews.
Yeah. So, folks, if you haven't looked up what the Khazarian Mafia is and the Khazarian Jews, that's what we're talking about here. And this would actually make sense, since they don't want to go to war because they're afraid that they might kill their own brothers, kind of like Watchtower does as well. So instead of doing that, they just go ahead and fund both sides.
Yeah, they fund Mossad, and they fund Hamas.
Yeah,
they did both of that, and then up till now, what they've done to and I'm not sticking up for the Palestinians either, because they're terrorists. I don't stick up for terrorists, but they've done the same thing. It's easier for them to just drop bombs on each other and kill innocent people than to actually take their people and send them off to war. So they don't believe in sending them to war. They'd rather just drop bombs and kill children.
From my understanding on this whole thing with Israel, is the CIA or the Mossad, which, okay, Mossad is the Israeli, is to Israel what the CIA is to the United States. All right. So Mossad and the U.S. government actually created Hamas. They created Hamas back in the 80s to go up against PLO leader Yasser Arafat. And so they used Hamas for their benefit. Now, it's kind of, they're when we say they're funding both sides, that means that this stuff between Hamas and Israel right now, that's all been coordinated and scripted. The only thing that we really need to concern ourselves with as humanity is we're there for the innocent people of Gaza and Palestine. We're there for the innocent people of Israel, the real Jews, not these people. These are the ones that are creating, they're stirring up everything. You know, we've talked about that example, the ants in a jar. We've talked about it many times. Red ants and black ants. You know, they're fine inside the jar. They're not fighting each other, but you shake it up and then you pour them out. They're going to start fighting each other. Who shook the jar? And so here we're answering the question, who is shaking the jar here? It
Mm-hmm.
is CIA, it is Mossad, and they're the ones creating all these problems for everybody. Okay.
Yeah, that is so true. Okay, and now this is okay, so now we're gonna get into, so this is what the whole thing tonight is I believe and you believe that Jehovah's Witnesses have had their assets frozen.
Correct.
Okay, so this I'm going to bring up. You're not going to be able to look. I had my husband go through it today just to see if he could find me anything that I could use in this presentation. And so this is a PDF file that I've got, and it is 2,000, almost 2,500 pages.
Good Lord.
And what it is, why is it not coming up?
Give it a second. It's a lot of pages. This is loading pages.
Well, it shouldn't. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, close that screen out.
Okay. So this is it. So there 2,500 pages. And look at this. This is all the, now I think the reason I really looked for Brooklyn Bethel on there, and I couldn't find them. I found a few places from Canada, and I think the reason I couldn't find anything for the US is that this is all Office of Foreign Asset Control. So I think this is all the foreign assets. So, but you go through this, and holy crap, what has been taken. I mean, I could just go down there. It just go down. My husband was on here. Oh, it's 2,500 pages.
All right. So on these 2,000 pages, we have companies, individuals, organizations, foreign, that have had their assets seized already.
Yep. They've all had their assets seized.
And this is documented proof of that.
That's right.
Wow.
It's on where I get to the top here. It's on a government, it was a government web, yeah. Office of Foreign Asset Control. You've got this here, Department of the Treasury, the Department of the Treasury. And we know that the Department of the Treasury, the IRS, has now been moved over to the Department of the Treasury. So all of the assets that they have taken from all of these places, 2,500 pages of them. Now, and this is just foreign, and the Office of the Treasury owns them now. So
let's break this down for the viewer who has no clue what we're talking about right now, because they're going to be like, what does this have to do with anything? So someone would say, okay, so who froze all these assets to all these people? What would you say to that? If someone asked you, who froze all these assets?
Well, I would say that there has been an underground military movement happening for ever since President Kennedy, at least. It could have been before there, but we know going back to President Kennedy.
Yeah. And
they have been watching everybody. It's been underground, and it's a worldwide. It's not just the United States. It's not just one country. It's a worldwide group that got together and said, we cannot let happen to the world and I'll play next what they plan to do, which the New World Order.
Yeah,
And
sorry, Laura. We've been telling everybody on our Facebook pages and everything that we are literally in a silent war right now. And be thankful that it's a silent war, an information war, because this is not the route that these people wanted to go. Folks, you should be very happy. I mean, it's crazy out there right now, but be happy that we're not where they really wanted us to be right now, because a lot of us might not be here to be able to even make this video or watch this video right now. Not even joking. It's that.
I'm not. I could tell a story. If Canada was the worst. Canada had already had CPP in there. They were training up north in Canada.
Yep.
Concentration camps were already built in Canada.
Yep.
Comey and Obama and Trudeau, I think, was part of it as well. Ordered 30,000 guillotines.
Yep.
What did they want guillotines for?
Yeah, folks.
So this is things that people they haven't looked into, and if we didn't have and I don't even know who like we kind of know who the good guys are, but about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when the computer industry got big and I mean, you can sit and watch your smart TV and it can watch you. It can tell them everything about you in your conversation, everything. We all know that.
Yeah.
You can say you like something and you put on your computer the next day and it's going to show you an ad for something. They listen to everything you say. So about 25 years ago, this group of good people decided to listen in on everybody's phones that they needed to. And this is how they found this list of people that were really bad people and doing things that were very nefarious, like pedophilia. Goes way farther.
Folks, if you watch that Kathy O'Brien documentary that I talked about, I'm still going to promote that. The information that was in that video can tie straight along with this list that Laurel has right here about foreign operators and what they were doing behind the scenes. Were you going to get into the executive order 13848 or 138?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Should we do that right now? You want to do that right now?
Yeah, because this kind of ties in. So, folks, back in, I think it was December 20th of 2017. Let me double check. I like to double check stuff. Let me check. 2017 to 2021.
It's 2017.
Yeah, December.
It was Trump. Trump did it in 2017, started arresting people and confiscating. But for people that hate Trump, and I know a lot of people do, we can also say that Biden redid in 2023, last year, he resigned the,
exactly.
So he did it as well. So it's not Trump that did it. Biden let it keep going.
All right, so let's pause there for a second. So this executive order, it's Executive Order 13818. It says blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. And this was signed by Donald J. Trump. Now, like Laurel just said, I think it ran until 2023. But what didn't get reported in the news was the resident of the White, I can't call him president. The resident went ahead and kept this order in place. So the question would be, why would he keep an order in place that's going against what these guys have done or they've been wanting to do and have done for years? I mean, if they wanted to keep their empire going with all their trafficking and stuff, he would have just killed the executive order, kind of like he did with killing the executive orders at the border. And that's a whole nother story there. We won't get into that. But according to this executive order, any organization, any person that is involved in crimes against humanity, human trafficking, child trafficking, all that, this executive order seizes their assets.
Yeah.
This list that Laurel has up there, the 2,000 pages, I'm sure that that's part of it.
Oh, for sure it is. It is for sure. It seized assets.
And so for those
yeah.
for those XJWs are like, well, what does this have to do with Watchtower? Well, look at how desperate Watchtower has been about money. They have been selling their kingdom halls. They're trying to get as much money as they can from somewhere because their assets at the top have been seized. So, all right.
Yeah, up until a few years ago, I just found that out today in my research. Up until a few years ago, Watchtower was the 40th richest corporation in New York City. That's saying a lot because New York is big. So out of all the corporations, you got Trump, you got I don't know who's all in. I'm Canadian, so I don't pay attention to. But anyways, Watchtower was 40th.
Wow.
So basically it's saying I'll just read this because I think people should know this. I won't go through the whole thing because it's a lot, but it says by the authority vested in me. And before I go into this, I'm going to say that I was never a Trump supporter. I'm still not crazy about the guy. I think he's kind of a braggart, but I guess somebody has to say something nice about him, even if it's himself, because nobody else does. Everybody gives him such a hard time. But when he did this, and since if anybody listened to my my story on my first video, since the 90s, I've been fighting pedophilia. So when I knew that Trump did this for human rights and for anybody that was a pedophile and hurt children or hurt women, and it's not just children, it's women that have been forced into sex trading and children. I admire him for doing this because not too many people would have had the guts to do this and go up against the whole establishment.
Right.
And that.
You want me to read this, Laurel?
Yeah, you go ahead. You read it. Yeah.
So I'm gonna read just a few paragraphs from this executive order at the beginning, so you guys can get an idea of what we're talking about and why this is so important. And again, going back to the Kathy O'Brien episode, she also talked about how Trump came in and really one of the first things he started doing was going after human trafficking and child trafficking. You've heard him say it on TV where he says it's like an ancient practice that they've used the internet for now. So people are starting to realize this, but anyway, this is what just a few things says. I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, find that the prevalence and severity of human rights abuse and corruption that have their source in whole or in substantial part outside the United States, such as those committed or directed by persons listed in the annex to this order, have reached such scope and gravity that they threaten the stability of international political and economic systems. Human rights abuse and corruption undermine the values that form an essential foundation of stable, secure, and functioning societies, have devastating impacts on individuals, weaken democratic institutions, degrade the rule of law, perpetrate violent conflicts, facilitate the activities of dangerous persons, and undermine economic markets. The United States seeks to impose tangible and significant consequences on those who commit serious human rights abuse or engage in corruption, as well as to protect the financial system of the United States from abuse by the same persons. I therefore determine that serious human rights abuse and corruption around the world constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. I hereby determine and order, Section 1A, all property and interest in property that are in the United States that hereafter come within the United States or that are or thereafter come within the possession of control of the United States person of the following persons are blocked and may not be transferred, paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt in. The persons listed in annex to this order, any foreign person determined by the Secretary of Treasury, what you're seeing on the screen there, folks, in consultation of the Secretary of State and Attorney General, to be responsible for or complicit in and to have directly or indirectly engaged in serious human rights abuse. And then it just goes on. You can go look this up and read it for yourself. But the man signed an executive order to fight human trafficking, child trafficking, and some of you are just worried about his mean tweets.
Yeah. Yeah. Mean tweets. Yeah. And what I'll add to that is it's not just US, that it's worldwide.
Yes.
That's why we have everything here that is not so much American, but it's worldwide assets. Because
we discussed that in one of the first early Big Picture episodes where we told people that it's not just United States doing this. There is an alliance. There is a worldwide military alliance that is doing all this, and it has to be done this way. One country just can't do it.
No.
There's corruption in all these countries. And so, anyway, I mean,
they're trafficking in children.
Yeah.
And what I couldn't believe, I think one of the things that really bothered me was the cargo ships that are coming in from China and all over the world with those big containers on them filled with children.
Yep.
Half of them dead.
Yep.
They had that one in the Suez Canal that went sideways.
Yep.
And I think it was 1,300 children that they saved, but more than that they pulled out dead. And these are kids that are being kidnapped away from their parents or raised in baby farms or whatever they do.
Yep.
And they're shipping them over to the US because the US is the #1 supplier of child for sex that there is in the world right now.
Human trafficking and child trafficking is the #1 currency for the deep state right now.
Yep.
You think it's drugs? No. You can only sell drugs one time.
That's right.
How many times can you sell a child?
Some of those children, those poor little kids, some of them are 30 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't even imagine those poor. That was what got me into fighting. I mean, somebody has to speak up for them, right?
So folks need to understand this is way bigger. When we say the big picture, we're not joking. You think it's just surface stuff and oh my God, people need to open their minds and realize there's a lot more stuff going on than you even realize. And you may think we're joking or we're making up stuff. We got receipts. We can prove it. Other people can prove it too. So anyway.
Yeah. There's all kind. Well, even like this that's up here. Anybody just take one page and start looking through it and doing a little bit of research on what those companies are, where they are. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. I mean, sure, we've done a lot of research, but a lot of people don't have the time to do that much research. But just do a little bit of research, and you'll find out that it's a dark, deep hole.
Let's pivot for a second and let's go to that video. If you're ready to go to that video that we try to in our warm up trying to practice.
Yeah, yeah. Let's put the video up. Okay.
Because I like to go ahead and run that video. The video is 9 minutes, folks.
And it's from 1967.
Okay.
And it's from 1967. So this is, I mean, it started, we know about Albert Pike in the 1800s, but this is 1967. And they were already telling us in 1967. And the reason I pulled this one up is because I'm planning to do a video. I've kind of figured out why Jehovah's Witnesses figured 1975 was going to be Armageddon. And 1967 was the year they brought out that book, the Red Book, Freedom of the Sons of God, whatever, where they first mentioned 1975. So anyways, I'll put it up right now.
Yeah, make sure you got the audio, the share audio clip or whatever.
Yeah.
Make sure that's still going on there.
I gotta start it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Question how and why the United Nations is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery to the vast majority of the American people. The reason for this unawareness of the frightening danger to our country and to the entire free world is simple. The masterminds behind this great conspiracy have absolute control of all of our mass communications media, especially television, the radio, the press, and Hollywood. We all know that our State Department, the Pentagon, and the White House have brazenly proclaimed that they have the right and the power to manage the news, to tell us not the truth, but what they want us to believe. They have seized that power on orders from their masters of the great conspiracy. And the objective is to brainwash the people into accepting the phony peace bait, to transform the United States into an enslaved unit of the United Nations one world government. Is that our so-called leaders in Washington, whom we elected to safeguard our nation and our Constitution, are the betrayers, and that behind them are a comparatively small group of men whose sole objective is to enslave the whole world of humanity in their satanic plot of one world government. Now, as a matter of further intelligence, a term used by the FBI, let me clarify the meaning of the expression, "he is a liberal." The enemy, meaning the one world conspirators, have seized upon that word liberal as a cover-up for their activities. It sounds so innocent and so humanitarian to be liberal. Well, make sure that the person who calls himself a liberal or is described as a liberal is not in truth a red. Now then, this satanic plot was launched back in the 1760s when it first came into existence under the name of the Illuminati. This Illuminati was organized by one Adam Weishaupt, born a Jew, who was converted to Catholicism and became a Catholic priest, and then, at the behest of the then newly organized House of Rothschild, defected and organized the Illuminati. Naturally, the Rothschilds financed that operation. And every war since then, beginning with the French Revolution, has been promoted by the Illuminati operating under various names and guises. In the United States, they set up what they called the Council on Foreign Relations, commonly referred to as the CFR. And this CFR is actually the Illuminati in the United States. And its hierarchy, the masterminds in control of the CFR, to a very great extent, are the descendants of the original Illuminati conspirators. But to conceal that fact, most of them changed their original family names to American-sounding names. For example, the true name of the Dillons, Clarence and Douglas Dillon, once Secretary of the U.S. Treasury Department, is Lepowski. There is a similar establishment of the Illuminati in England, operating under the name of the British Institute of International Affairs. There are similar secret Illuminati organizations in France, Germany, and other nations, operating under different names. But at all times, the operations of these organizations were and are masterminded and controlled by the internationalist bankers, who in turn were and are controlled by the Rothschilds. Now, just why did the conspirators choose the word Illuminati for their satanic organization? Weishaupt himself said that the word is derived from Lucifer and means holders of the light, using the lie that his objective was to bring about a one-world government to enable those with mental ability to govern the world and prevent all wars in the future. In short, using the word peace on earth as his bait. Perhaps the most vital directive in Weishaupt's plan was to obtain absolute control of the press, so that all news and information could be slanted, so that the masses could be convinced that a one-world government is the only solution to our many and varied problems. Now do you know who owns and controls our mass communications media? I'll tell you, practically all the movie lots in Hollywood is owned by the Lehmans, Kuhn Loeb and Company, Goldman Sachs, and other internationalist bankers. All the national radio and TV channels in the nation are owned and controlled by those same internationalist bankers. In 1834, the Italian revolutionary leader Giuseppe Mazzini was selected by the Illuminati to direct their revolutionary program throughout the world. Mazzini had enticed an American general named Albert Pike into the Illuminati. Pike was fascinated by the idea of a one-world government, and ultimately he became the head of this Luciferian conspiracy. Between 1859 and 1871, he, Pike, worked out a military blueprint for 3 world wars and various revolutions throughout the world, which he considered would forward the conspiracy to its final stage in the 20th century. Long before Marconi invented radio, the scientists in the Illuminati had found the means for Pike and the heads of his councils to communicate secretly. It was the discovery of that secret that enabled intelligence officers to understand how apparently unrelated incidents, one such as the assassination of an Austrian prince at Sarajevo, took place simultaneously throughout the world, which developed into a war or a revolution. Pike's plan was as simple as it has proved effective. It called for communism, Nazism, political Zionism, and other international movements be organized and used to foment 3 global world wars and at least 2 major revolutions. World War III is to be fomented by using the so-called controversies the agents of the Illuminati, operating under whatever new name, are now stirring up between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Muslim world. That war is to be directed in such a manner that all of Islam and political Zionism, Israel, will destroy each other, while at the same time the remaining nations, once more divided on this issue, will be forced to fight themselves into a state of complete exhaustion, physically, mentally, spiritually, and economically. Now, can any thinking person doubt that the intrigue now going on in the Near, Middle, and Far East is designed to accomplish that satanic objective? Pike himself foretold all this in a statement he made to Mazzini on August 15, 1871. Pike stated that after World War III is ended, those who will inspire to undisputed world domination will provoke the greatest social cataclysm the world has ever known. Quoting his own words, taken from the letter he wrote to Mazzini, and which letter is now catalogued in the British Museum in London, England, he said, "We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm which in all its horror will show clearly to all nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery and of most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the people forced to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitudes disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will be from that moment on without direction and leadership, and anxious for an ideal but without knowledge where to send its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out into public view, a manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Anyway, the ending of the Civil War destroyed, temporarily, all chances of the House of Rothschild to get a clutch on our money system, such as they had acquired in Britain and other nations in Europe. I say temporarily because the Rothschilds and the masterminds of the conspiracy never quit. So they had to start from scratch, but they lost no time in getting started. Shortly after the Civil War, a young immigrant who called himself Jacob H. Schiff arrived in New York. Jacob was a young man with a mission for the House of Rothschild. Jacob was the son of a rabbi, born in one of Rothschild's houses in Frankfurt, Germany. After a comparatively brief training period in the Rothschilds' London bank, Jacob left for America with instructions to buy into a banking house, which was to be the springboard to acquire control of the money system of the United States. Actually, Jacob came here to carry out 4 specific assignments. Number 1, and most important, was to acquire control of America's money system. Number 2, find desirable men who, for a price, would be willing to serve as stooges for the great conspiracy and promote them into high places in our federal government, our Congress, in the U.S. Supreme Court, and all federal agencies. Number 3, create minority group strife throughout the nations, particularly between whites and blacks. Number 4, create a movement to destroy religion in the United States, but Christianity to be the chief target. In the final phases of the conspiracy, the one world government will consist of the king dictator, head of the United Nations, the CFR, and a few billionaires, economists, and scientists who have proved their devotion to the great conspiracy. All others are to be integrated into a vast conglomeration of mongrelized humanity, actually slaves.
Wow.
That's crazy, eh?
Oh my goodness. All right. So this video, everybody, was from 1967, 57 years ago. And there's a lot of information in there. And so I highly recommend going back and watching it again. I know I will. Wow. My take.
What I'm going to mention there too is I had mentioned it to start with, but in 1967 I remember I was telling Jimmy before we started that I'm old enough to remember in 1967. And I remember there was a Middle East war.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad really thinking that that was going to be Armageddon. Because I don't know if witnesses knew so much, or it was because of Israel fighting the Arabs and everything that was going on at that time. And it had a lot to do, which I will be doing a video on at a later time. If Jimmy wants to help me, great. But it will be, I've got a lot of information on why they thought that Armageddon was coming at 1975. But this just tells everything. It just, I mean, for people that think that atheism is the way to go, that they're getting rid of atheists too, which just proves that even if you're an atheist and you don't believe in any God, these people do. They believe in Satan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I found it very interesting that one of the dates that was mentioned in that video, and a lot of people don't know about it, is the 1871 date. And I've done I did a video on my YouTube channel about 3 years ago when I learned about 1871, and how in 1871, just to recap that real quick, because of the Civil War, the United States needed money because they had to rebuild the nation after the Civil War. So what they did is they went and lobbied to the Bank of England to say, hey, we need some money. Can you help us out? Well, they said, sure, we'll help you out, but with a price. And so what they wanted was to have some say or control, eventually full control, of what was going on in the United States. So in 1871, they drafted a new constitution out of the sight of the public and changed the wording of the Constitution from of to for. I think that's what it was, from of to for. I'll have to double check. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. But we came off the original Constitution from 1790. That was, that came in play in 1791. So for all these years, the American people have not had their actual Constitution rights. We have been the slaves of a corporation. Now, we're not going to go into so much more of that this evening. I could do another whole hour on that. But one of the things I did take away from this video was the 4 keys that they had. One was to acquire control of the money, which they got complete control in 1913 with the adoption of the Federal Reserve, which has nothing to do with federal. That is not a government agency. It's a private-owned
never
bank.
has been.
Yep. 2, I found this one very interesting. Find men who are willing to be stooges for this plan for a price. So if you pay somebody enough money, they'll pretty much do what you want them to do. We see that going on today. We see the money control as well, which I believe that's changing. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. 3, create minority groups. And in the video, he talked about black versus white. And this is back in 1967, folks. And not only do we see the minority, fight between the minority groups, black and white, but we also see LGBT, transgender. We see all these different groups, that Antifa, BLM, Proud, all these groups that they've created to keep us all divided and keep us fighting amongst ourselves. And then the last one was create a movement to destroy religion, which I find kind of funny because a lot of the religions they used to further their goals.
Mhm.
And now religion has gotten to a point to where it's no use to them anymore. So they've done what they needed them to do. So now let's go ahead and get rid of them. Kind of like in the mafia, when the mafia boss hires somebody to go out and take somebody out. What happens to the person that took somebody out? Eventually, they get taken out too. Can't have no witnesses. So I just found that's the four things I picked up from that I found very interesting about this video. Laurel?
Yeah, I found it interesting too. There's a lot in it. And one of the things that I had mentioned in one of my Zionist videos was how the Rothschilds, that's why they're still going out. That's why we hear so many horrible things about Russia, is because the Rothschilds are still hating Russia for bailing them out. And that was that during this. I think they bailed out Lincoln during the Civil War. The Russians came in. The Rothschilds wanted to take over, and the Lincoln wouldn't have anything to do with it. But America was already broke, and so he went to the czars, and they gave him money. So that was another reason that, among others, that the Rothschilds hated Russia, and to this day. And we see, I mean, how many times have we been trying to tell people that they control the TV, they control the radio, they control the news, they control everything? Well, this is right there. They're telling us.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to tell us why they hate Russia. They're just going to make Russia seem like the bad guy all the time.
Well, that's because Russia, they've always fought against this global new world order. And look at from the Jehovah's Witness side of things, there for a while they thought Russia was going to be the king of the North. And, and then when Russia kicked out Watchtower from its country, oh my goodness. Oh, we got to have a letter writing campaign now to Russia to tell them they're being wrong and this is not right. So it's always been Russia's always been the bad guy. And, Watchtower's done it. And on the political side, it's always Russia, 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 Russia. They got to create something and they got to create a boogeyman, I guess, so to speak. But they really don't like Russia because they have no control over Russia. And
which just proves to me, too, that Jehovah's Witnesses are globalists, just like the rest of them.
Yes. So I think that video, and we've talked about it before, but that video, came out in 1967, and that was right around the time that Watchtower started talking about 1975. Because I think the New World Order, the globalists, they really thought that they were going to be able to move everything and have everything done by 1975, which that failed. Now, why that failed? Sure, there's some stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah, we can guess on that and, other things. I wanted to ask you, Jimmy, before we get into the rest, we talked last week about Executive Order 13818 on acquiring the assets and taking the assets away from people that are committing crimes against humanity. That can go for pedophilia.
Yep.
That can go for murder. That can go for anybody. This is going to be scary to a lot of people, but it's the truth. You can look it up. If you in any way forced the vaccination on people against their consent, whether you're doctor, nurse, a religious order, no matter who you are, if you encourage people without their consent to have the vaccination, that is also considered a crime against humanity.
Yep.
And these people are all going to have their assets seized.
Now, do we
So-
want to go
Hmm?
ahead and talk about some of that's been done already? Some of these assets. that have
Yeah,
been
that's
seized?
what I thought. I thought
Yeah,
we
let's go
talked
there.
about that today, and I thought not just their assets seized, but another thing that maybe we won't get to absolutely everything here today, but I can always do another video on it. But it's right now, while we're on this subject, I think it's really important that people know what has been done. And, you know, the normal person, if they don't know where to look and how to look for it, they're not going to find it.
And I think it's important that we do talk about this because, you know, a lot of people, some of the naysayers, those that want to play devil's advocate, are going to say, well, this recording was back in 1967 and nothing has changed. And so I think if we can start showing people, hey, look over here, this is what's happening here. Let's look over here, and this is what's happening here. You can see things changing. It doesn't happen quickly. Folks, you got to remember that this Hydra that we've been fighting for centuries has been around a very long time. They've got their tentacles into everything from the top all the way down to local positions in your community, and not just in the United States, but worldwide. So it took them many years to build this, but they're starting to crumble right now. And so it's going to take a little time to get this thing under control and defeated. And I know
Look how long it's taken to get here. I mean, on my last video, the last 5 minutes of it, I played John F. Kennedy's speech on secret societies. Because that was one of the things that woke me up, was his speech on secret societies. I mean, I was already awake as to all the Watchtower stuff.
Right.
But then when I heard his speech on secret society, I thought, I really paid attention, because I thought, holy crap, JWs are secret societies. And so that was back in 1963, he gave that speech. A lot of people think that's the reason he got assassinated. So that's only 4 years before this took place, the video that we just watched. So obviously back then, he already had a fight against secret societies. And who knows, well, we know it went all the way back to the 1700s and even could be before that. So,
yeah,
I mean, it went back into Europe. I mean, it's 1700s. I think it started more in United States, but before that, it was all over Europe, Russia, you know, and all those places.
Yeah.
So
it goes back a long time. But that just shows that they haven't succeeded yet. So there must be something that is throwing them off their course. And so let's talk about the seizing of the assets. What examples do you have of some assets being seized right now?
Okay, I'm going to show you rather. So people, it's always better to show people, because
I agree.
Okay, I'll start off with Beverly Hills. Now, Beverly Hills, have you seen the news lately? People, it's been on the news, but people haven't paid attention to why it's on the news. But they actually started, a few months ago. Can you see this?
I can see it.
Okay, so you see that it's U.S. seizures, federal government, public auction, and this is Beverly Hills, high volume fine jewelry. It's hard to tell, but it's got Andy Warhol, it's got Picasso, expensive jewelry. They're having an auction in Beverly Hills for
That's
assets.
interesting that it says U.S. seizures, federal government.
That's right. It actually says it there.
Huh. That's interesting. I hadn't seen that before.
So I thought I'd start with that because at the same time as we were paying attention to this, my husband and I don't just do this so I can get it off. Sorry, I trying to get this there. I had to get it off. My husband and I were I'll put up. We're talking, and it came on the news that a bunch of homeless people, the cops had told them to go up and set camp up in Beverly Hills because there was nobody up there. It was actually on the news.
I hadn't heard that.
So this was a few months ago.
Oh, wow.
So this was another one. All assets being seized. Barbara Walters. Now, think logically. Barbara Walters is in her 90s. What 90-year-old woman is going to sell everything and move at her age? I mean, they just don't. I know old people. They don't. They know that they're in the end of their life and they're not going to be. They're not up for moving. So why in the heck would they be selling her stuff? So that's one asset that's something being frozen. I'm sorry, I've got to do it this way. I can't get it. Where's the another one here? And it's share. And we know the people can look it up. Share is a huge adrenochrome junkie.
Yeah.
So people can look that up. I mean, you do not look 75 years old and still look like you did when you're 29. Nobody does, no matter what kind of facelift you have. But this is her Malibu home, but she has a few homes for sale. People can look that up.
Laurel, let me just stop you here real quick. I just went in and did a quick Google search on stars selling their homes. I've heard a lot of them, but here's just a few. Jim Carrey, Britney Spears, Kylie Jenner, Drake, Little Uzi Vert, whoever the hell that is, Charlie Puth. There's more. There's a whole list of all these celebrities that have been selling their homes, and are they selling them or have they been seized? Well, according to one picture you just put up there, says seizure.
Yeah. Well, there's tons. I could show lots, but it's going to take too long, and we don't want to do that.
But let's tie that now to Watchtower. So we have heard over the last 5 years, especially really big last 5 years, Watchtower selling kingdom halls all over the place, selling assembly halls, and in the meantime, they're telling the flock that they need money to have a new movie theater or movie production facility. So when we talk about Watchtower being part of the deep state, we look at the pattern. People in Hollywood who are known New World Order globalist stooges are selling their places, and now you got Watchtower doing the same daggone thing. I just find that there's no such thing as coincidences.
No, everything is for a reason.
And we see Watchtower always asking for money, trying to put a donation amount, a monthly fee on the members. They're always wanting money. So why do they need money so bad right now? Why is there a push for that?
So just getting up to Watchtower, because we know JP Morgan is huge. We know that they're Rothschilds.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to do much investigating to find that out. They're Rothschilds. another thing about JP Morgan, if you go back, oh God, it would probably be 3 years now. If you go back and look at Kim and Mikey, one of their videos, they did a video on how Watchtower has an open-end account with JP Morgan, meaning if they want to take a couple $1,000s, they could.
I think we talked about that in, I think it was Big Picture episode 4 or 5 when we had Kim and Mikey on.
Yeah, I think so. I think we did.
We talked about the financial connections between Watchtower and the globalists. Go back to that episode. I can't remember. It's either 4 or 5. We did a whole episode and we had Kim and Mikey on with us. So go there for some more information on the financial side of this stuff. So yeah, go ahead, Laura.
That's right. Okay. And so now the other thing I wanted to mention, so because we're talking about JP Morgan, look what's been seized from them. Cargo ships seized last month with nearly 20 tons of cocaine on board. Well, there was a time, if that was JP Morgan, they would have just bought themselves out of it. They pretty well, Rothschilds own the world. If they had any control, that never would have happened. I mean, you never heard anything like that happen with JP Morgan, right?
Yeah. See, that's another thing that I wanted to mention about, because you talk about JP Morgan having to come out and have this information go public. If the deep state, the globalists, if they were in control, you would have never seen this article.
That's right. It would never. And then I've got one more here, and then we'll talk about the JW's part in it. If I can close this off. Okay, I did. One more is,
when was that done?
I just got it about 2 weeks ago.
Really? Okay.
But it could be older. I just found it. So,
okay.
But this one I thought was really good because they're all globalists, right? They're all globalists. So we got JP Morgan Chase, BlackRock drops out of massive UN climate alliance in stunning move. And there's a whole article. You can look it up.
What's the date on that? February of this year?
February 15th, 2024.
Whoa, that's huge.
Yeah. So they've dropped out of the climate. So if the alliance that we're talking about can make JP Morgan the Rothschild number one in climate change and make them stop it. Look at it was on Fox News. If they can make them stop that, then what kind of control do they have over Watchtower? Now that's what we need to talk about next.
Yeah, because we've been telling people that there is a global alliance that has been fighting against this globalist deep state. So, and a lot of people don't believe that is happening. But my thinking is there's got to be something behind the scenes fighting the deep state, because stuff like this, celebrities selling their homes, JP Morgan dropping out of climate change summit, JP Morgan having to be in the public that their ships are found with cocaine. That stuff wouldn't happen if they were in control. So who is behind the scenes causing these people to out themselves?
And here's another one. Do you see it? This is JP Morgan's mansion that has been seized.
Wow.
And I'm having a heck of a time trying to get out of this. It just keeps wanting to go back to other things. There, I got it. Okay. Oh, darn. I hate technical stuff. I'm too old for it.
Did you have any more things you wanted to share on the screen?
No, I don't think I need to. There was a lot I was going to share tonight, but I think we might have to make another show out of this.
All right, so go ahead and stop sharing the screen, and let's talk about the Watchtower real quick.
Okay. How do I stop sharing?
just go down to the bottom where it says share screen.
Uh,
Oh, I might be able to get you this. I might be able to.
I see where it is up here. Okay. I get rid of that stuff first.
I got you. I got you.
Oh, you got me. Okay.
Okay,
Good.
cool.
Okay.
So the reason why we're talking about Watchtower in this light is because it wasn't until 2014, 2015 that they started doing the broadcasts.
2014.
Okay. Up until that point, no one really knew who the governing body was.
Mhm.
And so now,
Could have been anybody.
yeah. So now they've been put out in the spotlight, and JW Broadcasting has not been successful for them because the folks that have been fighting against Watchtower, we can watch those videos now and we can pick it apart and we can expose the lies that they're telling in real time. And it just makes me wonder because the way this operation has been done so far, from what I see and from what I believe, is these people are being put out in front in the public so people can recognize who they are. So, for example, let's talk about Trump coining the phrase fake news. When he said fake news, everybody thought the man was crazy. How do you feel about the news now? How do you feel about the mainstream media? Are
Don't
they
trust it at all. I won't watch it. I mean, I'll turn it on once a week just to see what they're saying so I can laugh at them.
That's what I do. I turned it on. I turned on Fox today on my radio while I was driving, and Fox News was actually criticizing other mainstream media outlets that were pushing the whole bloodbath conspiracy. You know, they were trying to say that Trump's.
Oh, that is so stupid. I watched that. That's not at all what he said.
I know. So, but anyway, so do you believe the news? Do you believe everything you hear on the news? Or was Trump right when he said fake news? Now, another thing that has been done, let's look at another person that was put out front that the public really didn't know about. If you were older back in the 80s and you were aware of political stuff back then, you kind of knew the guy's name, but you really didn't pay much attention to him. Anthony Fauci. He was put out front and center for the world to see.
Because people have to look into Fauci too. We can't do all of the research for everybody. People have to research a little bit themselves.
Yeah.
And Trump knew what he was doing with Fauci, even though he pretends he didn't, but you know, that's just him. But he knew what he was doing because he knew that Fauci had created AIDS.
Exactly.
And we all know that now. I mean, if you don't know that, you've had your head under a rock because it's been everywhere. He created AIDS.
And I think the reason that that's been put out, or the way Fauci was put out front, is for people to do some digging on this guy and find out what he was really about and who he is. And then not only that, but look at the connections that Fauci has to different organizations and who he's involved with. So basically, folks, what you're seeing right now is you're seeing how you are being shown how these people operate. And you are being given the knowledge to be able to figure out what's going on in this world. The world's not getting worse. The veil's just being lifted.
That's right.
And if you just want to dismiss things that we say, then you're just letting that veil come right across your face again.
And you'll be sorry in the long run that you don't have more. It's going to be very hard in a little while to face a lot of things that people that have not researched anything and don't really know anything that's going on in the world, for them to come to terms with the final solution and what the plans are. It's going to be very hard for people to accept the fact that we've been lied to our whole lives.
Yeah. And I tell you what, when I woke up from Watchtower, Laurel, that was my comment that I made. I said, I have been lied to for 40 years. And I don't want to be lied to anymore. And that's the reason why I've done so much research. I've done so much digging. You've done the same thing, because all we want to do is find the truth. We want to know what's going on. Now, I will say we have been, for the ones that are the digital soldiers, we've been told that we're only going to see about 20% of what has really gone on in this world.
That scares the hell out of me.
I know, because I've seen a lot of stuff that I'm like, holy
yeah, we have.
I don't want to even see that anymore. I mean, and if there's 80% that the public actually doesn't know about, holy crap. Because the 20% that we are actually going to be able to see should be enough information to get people to start asking questions and be like, holy crap, what's going on? And when it comes to Watchtower, especially with after the news that they've gone and they're making all these changes and people are just like, oh Lord, what's going on? Watchtower's changing. Laurel, I did a video the other day, and I don't know if you got to see it yet or not, but I want to get your thought on this. I said Watchtower no longer exists. And what I mean by that,
I agree.
Yeah, what I mean by that is the Watchtower I grew up with, it's no longer. It doesn't exist.
But yet we still don't exist to them. I mean, they totally changed everything, and yet we are still apostates because we didn't agree with the way we knew that they were not a Bible-based organization. And we did our research. It was like people that do their research, they don't want you there. They like their sheeple. They like people that they can wrap around their finger and that they can tell all these things to. And what kills me right now is all this new light. I'm actually seeing a governing body on TV with a full beard. And now you can grow a beard. And now brothers don't have to wear a suit and tie at the Kingdom Hall. And now sisters can wear slack. And now you can say a greeting to people at the Kingdom Hall. All these things coming out, which tells me I've been in long enough that there is no way, unless somebody had control of them and were telling them what to say, there is no friggin' way that they would have brought out all of this in such a short amount of time.
I have to agree with that, because you're right. It's just like the deep state has always wanted to do things silently and keep it secret, but that's why they put out their little subliminal messages through movies and music and all that, because they really don't want the public to know. How much has the public learned in the last 4 years?
That's right.
So I know things look tough, folks, but we are already in, I've said it before, we're already in World War III. This is a information war, and we are winning.
Are we ever? Are we ever? How'd you like seeing what was his name? Sanderson wearing a red, white, and blue tie.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought, and so let's go with your let's go with the theory that we believe that somebody's controlling them. That one sign said U.S. federal seizures. That would be the alliance doing that. So maybe he had a red, white, and blue tie, because he's like, hey, you need to put this red, white, and blue tie when you go out there and make yourself look like an idiot.
Yeah. Maybe told from up, and and I personally, because there have been, we know that there have been plants. We know that there's plants. That the only way they could have gotten all the information that they have in the last 60 years is by going in deep, they had to have undercover agents to go in and, like, what's that the saying they say, infiltration, not
Invasion.
invasion.
And,
People have to infiltrate in order to get it.
yeah, and that's exactly what Kennedy talked about. In
Mhm.
that speech, he said there will be infiltration instead of invasion.
Mhm.
And okay, so if you know that is their playbook, you know that's what they're going to do, how do you combat against that? You do the same thing. So, how do we know that some people that are in Hollywood are actually good? They've just been plants. How do we know that there's somebody in Watchtower that's helping getting this information out? We don't know that yet, but we can see the fruits of some of this stuff. And I tell you, I believe we are watching the biggest sting operation in our lifetime.
In the history of sting operations, how do we even know that they're all governing body members? Because we never knew. Nobody knew what they all looked like. I mean, if they were just hidden away somewhere in Brooklyn, Bethel, and you might have seen the odd one go out and give a talk, but I don't. I mean, I've been away a long time, so maybe I'm wrong. You could correct me. But did anybody really know what all the governing body looked like?
Yeah. What about the COs? I've said before that I've thought that the COs could have been CIA operatives, but they also.
Oh, I'm pretty sure some of them are.
Yeah, I do believe that. Now,
Mhm.
is it possible that some of them were on the alliance side to gather information? Folks, I know what we talk about sounds crazy, but have you seen the world we live in? You really have to open your mind and consider that some of this stuff that we've been saying is pretty possible, So,
Oh, I think I've been called so crazy. I mean, I have been. I've got to be the craziest person in the town I live in. People think I'm so crazy, but I don't care. You know what? I don't care anymore because when you've done enough research and you're so sure of yourself and sure of what you're reading and what you're looking at, and you see other examples of it, it's really not hard to put 1 and 1 makes 2.
Exactly. All right, so Laura, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's wrap this video up. What kind of final thoughts would you have for this video this evening?
Well, I only got through half of my notes, so I guess I'm going to have to do another video.
Yeah, we'll have to do another video.
But that's okay. That we got off on. I loved that. I'm sorry, I said it was 9 minutes. It was 12 minutes, that video.
Yeah.
But I think it was a really good video, showing how far back, and what you said, how it doesn't happen overnight. These guys have all the time in the world. They've had this, like they say, since Albert Pike, and we've mentioned Albert Pike so many times. Albert Pike planned. He was a 33-degree Mason. He planned all 3 world wars. JWs take credit for knowing that something was going to happen in 1914 because they've gotten word from Jehovah. Well, Pike knew in the 1800s that exactly what was going to happen in 1914. So, it's all been planned, and they're taking their time because they talk about living forever. They talk about a paradise, or they talk about all the same things that JWs talk about. Yep. So you put all that together, and you can't come to any other conclusion. I would love somebody to send in some comments of other ideas they have, if they have a better idea than we do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my final thoughts on this is we covered a lot of information in this video. And if you've stayed with us this long, thank you. I just want to say thank you for sticking
Yeah, thank you. It's been long.
because this is a very long video. There's so much information in here. But again, what we've been trying to do is to put puzzle pieces together in sections so that we can get to the bigger picture so we can see what's really going on in this world. And if you just want to call your neighbor or your friend or a family member a right-wing extremist, a crazy conspiracy theorist, if you want to continue to do that, then you're doing exactly what the deep state globalist wants you to do. So
They've got you. They've got you then.
yeah, I mean, we know Watchtower, again, I can't stress this enough. Watchtower uses the phrase apostate. When you hear that word, think about mind control. When you hear apostate, what's the first thing you're taught to think when it comes to Watchtower? You're taught to think that that person is evil, that person is crazy, you shouldn't be listening to this person. The same thing happens when you call somebody a conspiracy theorist, a extremist, a domestic terrorist. That is exactly
Or you censor them.
Yeah. Get censored.
Censoring is the same thing. I mean, as apostates, we've been censored.
Yeah.
Face it, we are censored. They do not want anybody to hear what we have to say because we know what's going on and they don't like anybody that knows what's going on.
The biggest fear, and I'll tell you folks this, the biggest fear that this deep state globalist Illuminati, their biggest fear is for everybody finding out what they're doing. Because once you find out the horrors and the depths of evil that these people have conducted on everyone, you would be pissed off, you'd be shocked, you'd be mad, and you'd want to get rid of them too.
That's right. Well, what did George Bush Sr. say? It's actually a well-known amongst us. We all know the quote, but he actually did say to his secretary, and she remembered it. And what was her name? I'll say Claire. If the world ever finds out what we have done, we will never be able to walk down the streets alone.
Yep.
So they knew, and that was from the early 90s that he said that, late 80s, early 90s. So it's been going on a long time, and they've been very, very evil people.
But the thing is, folks, is we are here to shed light on this stuff. We are here to help show you how awful these people are and how they've used their tactics to control humanity on the religious side and on the political side. But the thing is you never want to interfere with your enemy while they're destroying themselves. And that's exactly what's going on. Because these people, if they weren't already captured, controlled, seized, or whatever, do you really think they would come out and say some of the stuff that they've done in the last 4 years? No, they wouldn't have. Because it doesn't.
No way.
It doesn't fit the way they do operations.
Well, just think of it. Even JWs to come out with all the stuff they've come out with and say, I don't even know, in 6 months, it's a boom, 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 and there'll be more coming.
And there's more coming, yes.
There'll be lots more coming. It has never happened before in history. That has never happened.
No.
So I can't wait to find out what more. You know what? I just hope my family isn't the very last ones to wake up, because that's pretty embarrassing.
I can feel you on that one. All right, everyone. Well, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit like, subscribe. I'm going to take this video, put it on BitChute. So if you haven't subscribed to the Big Picture on BitChute, we put our information over there because we never know when YouTube is going to censor the channel or anything like that. So also, again, just as a reminder, We have the memorial coming up on Sunday. I'm not going to say anything else about it. Just stay tuned for a new episode of the Roundtable. So
I'm also going to put this up on my YouTube, and I think that I'm going to be changing all my YouTubes over to Rumble or BitChute as well.
yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. So, all right, everyone. Well, thank you so very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jimmy, for helping me with this.
Hey, not a problem. I'm going to be there for you if I can do it. So, but we appreciate each and every one of you. If you like the information, share it. Go back, watch the video, take some, look up some of the stuff that we talked about, and start putting the picture together for yourself as well. So we send you much love, peace, and happiness. Take care, and we'll see you soon.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. What you can do for your country. Your country. Your country.